Good morning. It's about 8 o'clock and I'm getting these 3-foot panels put up. And I have a window of opportunity of about 2 hours to get it done. The wind is calm right now, but around 10 o'clock, 10:30, it's supposed to pick up, into that 12, 14 mile an hour range. And I'd rather not be up here with those winds. So I'm going to get going. And because I'm going to an edge, the screw pattern is both sides of each rib, and I cannot do a stitch screw, which is a screw that goes through the top. Here, let me show you. That center screw there is called a stitch screw, and that's just metal to metal. So that's a 3/4 inch screw that is just securing the overlap together. I can't use that up top because the ridge flashing is going to go along there, but the ridge flashing gets screwed into these humps. So the panels will all be stitched together when it's all complete. Now that the panels are up in place and screwed down temporarily, I should say, because there's a lot of field screws that still need to be installed. But we had 25 to 30 mile an hour winds yesterday and we were all good. So I'm pretty confident that by tomorrow I'll have this done. I'm going to go down to the workbench and I'm going to give you a little information about the screws I'm using. This is a series of screws that I've used to install metal roofs. The first screw we have here is the one I used on our solar shed. It's 1.5 inches. It is what's called a metal to wood screw. It has a metal thread down here and a wood screw thread up here, and it has a standard exposed rubber washer. It's hard to see because this one's colored and it's been painted, so it's a little difficult to see that that's just an exposed rubber washer. The second one is called a 1.5 inch metal to wood number 10 ZXL wood binder screw. Again, it's got the self-tapping tip, metal thread, wood thread, rubber washer, and then the difference is the head of the screw, which is galvanized, will completely encapsulate or cover that rubber washer when it's screwed down. These are about 50% more expensive. No, change that. These are twice as much. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to have to be getting up there to replace screws because the washers have deteriorated in the Arizona sun. The third screw you see here is what's called a number 12 3/4 inch stitch screw. And it's a ZXL type, which denotes the full cover head encapsulating the rubber washer. This is just a metal screw. A metal thread, and it's self-tapping, and it's really meant for attaching the overlap on the bump of the panel. Good morning, guys. It's a beautiful morning, a light breeze, but it's a little bit warmer today, so I'm going to try to get this roof screwed down. And instead of snapping a line, what I've done is I've taken a mason's line and I've just taped it to both ends of the roof. I've never had real good luck snapping a line, 45 feet in length. So, and having the chalk actually make a mark. So I just figured I'll just tape the mason's line on both ends of the roof and just start screwing it down. And when I get done, I'll just move the line. The trick with these screws is not to over torque them. You just want them to hold, and you don't want to distort the washer. If you over torque it, the washer is going to be visible around the edge, and it's not as dramatic with these screws because the cap will still cover 99% of the washer. With the regular metal screws for this type of roofing, you're really going to destroy the washer. Where there's an overlap, you're supposed to do it on both sides of the overlap. So I'm just setting up my last string. Up until this point, I've been using masking tape and trying to tape it down. And of course, the wind has been blowing it because I could never really pull it taut. And on the last string, I finally realized what is so obvious to probably everybody watching this. All I did was I set a screw, wrapped the string real tight around the screw, and then set the screw in the roof. And then when I'm done, I'll back this out, remove the string, and tighten it up again. And with that, I'm able to pull it really nice and straight. In fact, I can even play music with it. Okay guys, the roof is now screwed off, and I want to show you something. Look closely and see if you can figure out when the wind was blowing. check out that row of screws. It looks like it's a roller coaster. Compared to the one where I pulled it tight, nice and straight. Oh well, live and learn. All right, tomorrow we begin with the flashing. Now for a brief explanation of what you're looking at, and it'll make more sense once you see me up on the roof. The rake flashing needs to be sitting on a hump or on a peak from the panel. On both ends of our roof, the hump is trimmed off. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to put in these spacers along the rake side of the roof so that the rake flashing will sit on top of it. This is a good explanation of how the ridge flashing is supposed to function. This is our solar shed. And as you can see, the ridge flashing goes vertical up the side and then across. And for it to sit horizontal across, it needs to sit on a hump. And then it tapers back down. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is put one of these spacers that I made right here on the edge. And I'll screw that down, and that way when my ridge flashing comes over, it'll sit at the proper height. But here you can see how my spacer is now holding my flashing up to the proper level. So now that I've got my spacer in place, what I'm doing is I'm trying to trim this low end of the flashing. And what I'm supposed to do is leave about a 3/4 inch overlap or a length here that I can now, using a hand seamer, bend to a 90-degree angle, and that will give it a clean appearance. I'm just hoping I've done this right. Okay, according to everything I've seen on YouTube, that appears to be correct. So I have this bent down. It covers over this last hump, and it has the same angle here as the pitch of the roof, and is extending also the length of the overhang, which is 2 inches. Now that I've got the end cut and fitted, I almost made a mistake. You can see a screw hole here. I actually put a screw into the roof, and what I forgot to do was, first off, take off the protective plastic, and second of all, a line of butyl tape belongs on the edge that is going to meet the roof surface. And I have the butyl tape put on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to mark where I need to screw before I get up on the ladder. On the fascia board, it's going to be every 16 inches, and on the top, it's every 12 inches a screw is supposed to be put in. So I'm going to get that marked out now, so when I get up there to start screwing it off, it'll be a lot easier for me. Okay, that went better than I expected. I was able to get that flashing bent properly at the 90-degree angle, and now it's just a question of putting up the subsequent pieces here on the first side of the rake flashing. I'm going to leave about a 3-inch overlap between pieces. I've got one side of the rake flashing done. Wind is starting to pick up, so I'm going to call it a day. You can see that I was perhaps a little too close to the edge with my butyl tape. It squeezed out in several spots. After the first piece, I learned my lesson and set it a little further back.